Rock and roll. Live and ready to rock. If you guys didn't know this, on Sunday, uh, Sunday Mass, just so you guys know, is Sunday Mass, as in like talking about this kind of Mass. This is the kind of Mass we talk about on the Sunday Mass. So if you were thinking that it was like a church service, it was. Because just like today, we're going to talk about some things that apply to us as men or as travelers or as people of faith that are up against something bigger than ourselves. So you saw the thumbnail and you see what the title says, so it's talking about getting past this boot loop. Boot loops happen in people with depression, with post traumatic stress, people who've been in car accidents and have had brain trauma, people with dementia. People with dementia are the most interesting to me because I had a great grandmother that had Alzheimer's disease, and the Raquera's mom has dementia. So not only am I dealing with my own, uh, trying to figure out ways to get rid of this issue, this issue, this issue, using all these medicinal things like curcuma and things like that. Oh, I found a new one. Besides berberine, you guys know berberine is something that regulates your glycogen stores. So regulates blood sugar. And it's a plant. And if you take it 3 times a day, you'll lean out real quick. It'll control your appetite for sweets. I don't know how true this is because I've experimented with her, who used to be the worst as far as like eating junk food and sweet bread and drinking coffee with tons of sugar and milk and all that stuff. And I'm like, yo, this is a lifestyle. This isn't like temporarily we're gonna stop, eating bullshit. This is like a permanent change of everything. Because it's not just changing your diet; it's changing everything about you. So what do we do to do this little master reset? Which you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it really worked for me. And it started when it was started 2 years ago. I had a paramedic here that said that he was ready to delete himself. He was totally convinced that it was like time to go. He was almost 400 pounds and he felt like dog shit, high blood pressure, a tachycardia. So I know what he felt like because, he had probably done juice for years, probably never had blood checked. And so he had blown up for whatever reason from depression or from alcohol or from inflammation. So he came here and he told me that he had skin cancer and stuff. So we worked on the first things first thing, and that was he was ready to delete himself. So there's only one thing that I know that veterans use, for example, when they're having a crisis and they're about to go off the edge, over the edge. And that is the first guy told me that like meditation was the key. So we tried that. Meditation for me, this is by the way, I ran the trial run first so that I knew if it worked or not. So it did eliminate a few things. And just so you guys know, if you are agoraphobic, okay, if you have an agoraphobia problem, okay, it can be something else. It's just masking as agoraphobia. It could be like a deeper, like there's something more to it than just fear of open spaces. Okay, because you have to constantly do the thing that you hate to do in order to get out of the boot loop. But there's a master reset button on the things that you hate to do. And you'll find that you hate. See, okay, so like today, for example, a lot of the kids are coming today, and it's one of the most probably complicated physically or mentally because it's confined spaces training. and they go through this metal, very uncomfortable, like worm thing, and it's all bars, steel bars, and they got to go through there with their jacket on, with their helmet on, and go through a maze of like hoses and all kinds of shit. And a lot of times it's blindfolded. So the first time they do it without the uniform, without anything's in the way. Second time they do it with the jacket on, so they feel how hot it really is. And the third time they do it with a helmet and with a jacket, because a lot of times the helmets fall off inside the thing, so it makes it uncomfortable. So it's got to be an uncomfortable situation so that you become more comfortable being uncomfortable. And that has helped me as far as dealing with a daily life that everything fucking bothers you. So, and somebody mentioned something about me living in the past, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm a storyteller. The only way for people to relate to what I've gone through is to talk about what I went through. And the only people that I know that say don't talk about the past are the people who caused the fucking problems in my past. Because most people want to hear my stories. And if they don't want to hear it, it sounds like bitching or whatever. Listen, I'm talking about something that seriously happened to me. And if it's, you could take it any way you want. For one, I'm getting out those things, those conversations that I never had. And that helps a lot. And sometimes the people that are listening to me have gone through these things and they completely identify with it. I mean, think about it. Somebody stole your car that is parked outside. And this is where the fuck shit starts in your life. This is just a made up story. This didn't happen. So somebody ripped off your car. Then you call the police, you get a police report. You know, somebody, the neighbors say they have a camera, so they go and they look on the camera and they see the car, then they see the person trying to steal the car, and then the cameras go out. And that's it. The cameras black out. Nobody knows why. Second, they go, they can't find a car or whatever. Police don't do anything to look for it. Or they find it and it's in a million pieces and it's all busted up and shit, stolen and ripped off. But they still do nothing about it. Then, you see what I'm saying? So you now have two frustrating situations that just happened. And you have to really understand how difficult it is for life as a man. And then learn how difficult it is for life as a man in another country where your culture is different and your language is different. And then try to adapt to the culture difference. Okay, we go back to Spain, for example. I was in Madrid on my way to Philadelphia. As I'm passing through immigration, they, hey, you, grab me like four guys like this big, grab all four guys, grab four parts of both sides of my arm. And I'm like, what's up? And they're like, that passport. So I show them my passport and they're like, why is this passport, asking me questions? And I'm like, why? Is there a problem or something? They're like, seriously, like, is there a problem? And they were talking to me in Spanish. So I'm like, I don't understand what the problem is. They're like, why is your passport so new? I'm like, because it's brand new. That's why. Anyway, so you sit down here at this desk, and then they have like these 15 like binders of things, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? And he's like, you got to speak Spanish. You can't speak English here. I'm like, speak Deutsch? You speak German? So they didn't want to do shit. And I don't know why I was even there. So you follow me? It's like bullshit just to complicate life. And this is how days go sometimes in Latin America. So it's like one frustrating thing that happens after another, after another, after another, after another. And it could get to you. Now, the difference between us, as in Westerners, who are accustomed to 24-hour services, being able to call your bank when you got a problem, you know what I mean? Just being able to handle stuff online instead of going to a physical location and standing in line for 2 hours for some menial task for some, you know, third-rate bureaucrat to finger type a form into a piece of a very simple document, and it takes them a half an hour to do it. And then they look up at you, and then they look at your lawyer and shit, and they'll say blah 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 blah, and then they'll go in the back and they'll come back. Okay, if you pay them 40,000 pesos, they'll go and do their job. It's like 2 grand to do their job. You see what I'm saying? So you live on a daily basis. It doesn't matter what country it is. You're going to find that these countries have lots of public servants, lots of government jobs. People stand in line for everything, so there's nothing new. So, but now we're going to get to the fun part, and that is how does your status as a person with a different kind of passport than the country that you're going to, how does it affect you? Now, some people are saying, oh, because of my skin color, I can't get a lot of dates. Well, that's worldwide. Truth is that any country you go to in Latin America or in Asia or in Europe, they will prefer to have the men from those countries as opposed to having a foreigner as their first choice. So they'll step over 500 foreigners for somebody from their country, Lithuania or whatever. And I found this to be especially true in Colombia. So I was up in a place that's called Santa Elena, and it's a really cold part of Antioquia outside of Medellin. And it's up in the Andes Mountains. And I stayed there for 3 months with my friend Juan del Bosque. It was a program called Colombia Homestays. So 3 months, you live on this like hippie farm. I understand it's like tree houses now. So it's gone to third generation coolness. And they do like ayahuasca ceremonies and like magic mushroom ceremonies and all that hippie stuff. That's in Colombia. So they have these big yurts and places like that to do these ceremonies for people. So anyway, I have one friend, actually not a friend, but one guy that came down, um, and he ended up going there because he was strung out on heroin or something, heroin and cocaine, and he would go to Colombia of all places to get his problem solved because wherever he was from, those ceremonies are illegal. So down in Colombia, very take it pretty seriously. It's like you would in Peru or whatever. The difference is it doesn't have the gringo price attached to it. So what would normally, I think in Peru, like those jungle ayahuasca trips where you got a shaman or whatever, and it turns out some gringo from Alabama that just moved to Peru. So they do have these gringo tourist trap type of things that attract a lot of people who have mental illness come down to Latin America with depression and with trauma and shit like that. And they don't understand the level of like things that they got to pass through to get through this stuff. Okay, so started out for me was started with that, except I did the fast version and it made me worse. I was doing meditation every single day at 12 o'clock noon for 1 hour, for 45 minutes actually. And it was a lying down breathing exercise, but it was transcendental type of meditation. It worked and it took the first layer of the onion off for me, but it wasn't, I'm not even close to being done. And that has been like 12 years. So praise God for that. Because there's been some real big strides and big changes happen for me. And actually got to see outside of, no, a better way to put it is I got to see behind the curtain. Once I was able to see behind the curtain of what is really going on, I was in shock for a long, long time. And it started to make me recognize and start to realize is that even though this is a theater and this is a show, and that people could be monitoring you, it's just like in the Cold War, all 30% of your neighbors were spies for the government. So now the government has 100% access to all of our devices, all of your TVs. You could turn them on and off at will if they wanted to. You know, Fourth Amendment, your Fourth Amendment rights be damned. So all that stuff, you could just say, let's pretend hypothetically that you no longer have those rights. And what I got to see was some fine print at the bottom of a program. It's called Apache. And Apache is a very common, like a framework style program that's used on most cell phones. And these are like Android phones or Samsung or whatever you want to call it. All there is not Apple phones. So in the fine print on the very backs of these disclaimers that none of us read, it talks about how if for whatever reason one of the federal agencies listed needs to go onto your phone, that it is allowed to. And it is allowed to use your data. And there's nothing you could do about it. And I started wondering, I was like, wait a minute. So does that mean that if I find that I have like hackers on my phone doing something in this phone that I just bought, and it was a used phone, how do I identify these people? Who the fuck who are all these people that are fucking around inside this phone? And it's a little bit of a game of cat and mouse at that point because I had some weird shit happen. It made me realize once I looked behind that curtain that we're not alone. We never have been alone. This has been a theater. We're the cavemen. This has been a master reset. A lot of this is just a simulation. This isn't the world we were born into. Something else. So, knowing that, you could stop this bullshit and worrying about everything in the world and start living out your dreams. You're probably saying to yourself, oh, you're selling me a dream. Listen, just run an experiment. You don't have to believe me. Run an experiment. If you have a boot loop in your head that says that this person hates you and that all they want to do is fight you, okay, that's a boot loop. Okay, that is a boot loop that helps kind of instigate that same. See, your brain doesn't know a thought being something that's physically happening and just your imagination. It doesn't know the difference. So I'm going to show you my technique for hitting a reset button when your brain is driving you fucking crazy about something. I don't care. Okay, listen. I told you guys these stories before. These are horror stories about certain types of veterinary steroids that were taken back in the 80s. And what these veterinary steroids would do to these bodybuilders is it would make them do what is literally called roid rage. And what that is your brain, that part of your amygdala that is for aggression. This particular veterinary steroid would affect that part of the brain. And these dudes would be friggin' crazy, like screaming and yelling and fighting everybody and looking at everybody, just looking at people sideways, just looking for a fight. And so I remember this. I remember this when I was a young bodybuilder. And I'm standing in line, for my first show, and everybody's just juiced to the gills. Everybody. And there's this young dude standing in front of me that I know he's part of this team of these other guys who are guys from Colombia. And he is just juiced up. He is probably starving. I know it's his first show. He's literally like standing there in the relaxed pose, and which is not a relaxing pose at all. It's like standing there with your arms out the whole time. And so hey, what's up, Rose? Oh, look at that, man. Oh, everybody's coming through today. So the guy standing in line with me, dude, looks like he's ready to smash me in the face. And so I know how he feels. I know he doesn't want to hear anything I have to say. All he wants to do is get there on the stage, stand there, and if he wins, great. And so he's just too nervous. So I know that feeling and I know that look. And it's that 1,000-yard stare, and it's a boot loop. Inside your mind, especially in the mind of somebody who's on veterinary steroids from the 1980s, please, God, what are you guys doing? He's taking something that makes bulls kill other bulls. That's why it's not made for male steers. It's made for female fucking steers when they're small. Because if they gave them to the males would kill each other. That's how bad this stuff was. And this is like 1980s, 1980s, and then it made a then it made a resurgence in the 2000s. And it's so bad for you that it was killing all these bodybuilders. You know, all these bodybuilders in the last few years are like dying. They're under like 30 something years old and they're all like dying. That is why, because it kills your kidneys. It kills your kidneys and it messes you up mentally so bad that it makes you paranoid to the point where it almost makes you schizophrenic. Because the delusional thinking that it gives you is so far out. You guys know that this drug I'm talking about that I'm not going to name because I don't want you guys trying it. It made this dude so paranoid that he swore his girlfriend's cheating on him. Like he just totally just insisted that this bitch cheating on him. So he wants to hire me, you know, to keep an eye on her. Then he wants to bait her and all this shit. Then he wants to put like hidden cameras in his house and like secret microphones. Then he wants to like hack her phone and put this like, you know, key logger on her phone and shit. And I'm just like, stop. Dude, stop. If this goes further, and I'm going to tell you right now that if this goes further, you're going to go to jail. Because every single thing you've told me that you were thinking is insane, first of all, because I know that bitch. And first of all, she ain't that great. So you're worried about some girl that's like, I'm saying this to myself. I'm being nice to the guy. I'm like, dude, she's like a 3. And you're worried about her cheating on you? Dude, you look at you. You got like fucking like 3rd place in the last Mr. Mexico. And you're over here worried about a 3? What the hell is the matter with you? And a matter of fact, listen to this, okay? So what? If she does, so what? Listen to this. You might have girlfriend problems, but you're going to find another one literally overnight here. You're in shape. Like totally jacked, in shape, 6-pack. If a girl saw you on the street, she'd be like, ay, papicito. And this motherfucker is not, what, 5'9" or something like that? He ain't good looking. When he got here, his teeth were worse than mine. Busted up, fucking crooked and shit. Got his fucking teeth fixed. Never got his hair fixed. Says this, you know what? I'm going to go for like a badass look instead. I go, what do you mean? He's like, hey, no, I just, you know, that whole idea of like, if you're losing your hair, just shave the shit off. And he goes, I've been holding on to like this hair thing, thinking that one day I'll go get a hair transplant. I was like, and then meanwhile, I'm losing my hair. I got the dumpy face, rounded out face from all the bad food from eating in the States and packaged food and the poison water and everything else, plus the stress of driving from San Diego to Los Angeles and having to commute and then turn around and have to go back. They pay him like something like $12,000 a month to be a helicopter pilot. $12,000 a month. And he says that it costs him, no joke, where he lives, cost of living for himself, with himself, not a dog, not a girlfriend, is upward of $6,000 a month. And I'm like, motherfucker, what in the hell are you eating? You can't be eating out and shit. Move to Mexico. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to work, why, you know what I mean? You're a pilot. Just get, you know, fucking move somewhere close to the border, walk across the border and fly your ass to work. Fucking Superman. Pilots don't make shit for money. Private pilots make good ass money. But what happens if you're making all that money, but your body's out of shape and your girlfriend hates you, or you know what I'm saying? Or this is constantly, and and just like I was saying at the beginning, there are so many people that are terrible at what they do. Like their service, it's beyond not being bad customer service. Now they're incapable of doing anything. It's like the movie Idiocracy. Like it's praised to be that stupid. See, it's not, it's one thing to have bad customer service. I get that. But it's another thing to be incompetent. If you think about all the things I mentioned at the beginning of this thing, is that every single part of these service things that I'm talking about, it's not just Latin America. That's a bureaucracy nightmare like you would never know. Stand in this line, get this stamp, go there to the second line with your receipt, and then come back to the window with the receipt, and then take this and go over there and do that, and then they'll do that. So it's like bureaucracy. And everything's a waste of time. It's like Ramstein Air Force Base. They call it Linestein because welcome to Ramstein. Please stand in line. But you understand there are people that live outside of the level of means that you and I are not accustomed to. All right. This is big money down here. Big, big money. When you move to Los Angeles, especially if you live in an upscale neighborhood, Jesus. One place that I looked at was $25,000 per month. And the agent said, this is a common. And I'm like, dude, why the because that's where people make connections. People make connections in Hollywood. That's the deal. You live and you move and you breathe in those areas in order to be positioned in such a way as to be in the presence of the people that you want to work with. The same thing goes for like women. If you want real beautiful baddies from like Atlanta that have that look, that Atlanta girl look that some guys really like, then you would not end up living in somewhere, Waleska, Georgia. You would live right smack dab in the best part so that you would go to the best gyms, eat the best food, go to the best malls so you can meet the hottest hotties and not the cheapy cheapies or the broke chicks. Women from upscale neighborhoods who are from better families. And that is how you narrow the search down because you cannot really be outside of your lanes unless you're planning on making some moves. But see, I'm not talking about being dishonest with chicks. You can read them. You can figure out in advance what it is all about them. So you know how to determine your next move because we can't play this like fast and loose game anymore. Okay. I don't give a fuck if you guys want to buy a fucking Tesla so you can ride around your 30,000. Any asshole with 30,000 fucking dollars can go buy a car so you can pretend like he's riding in space now. So yeah, that is still, I mean, that's a cool thing, but getting away from materialism is the beginning of wisdom. If you start to fear the Lord, that is, start to live in such a way as if your whole shit's being monitored all the time, and you start living in such a way so that all of the words that come out of your mouth at this point forward are verifiable. So, because that's what I see is happening, is that the whole system of you are certified in this, you are verified in that, are going to go away. As in PhDs are going to PH what's? People don't understand that anymore. That's going to go away. All of these systems that we believe to be of value are going away. All of the prestigious colleges that basically made like an open border policy and open the doors to anybody from the fucking community college to come to an Ivy League school so they could fill up the fucking school with numbers. And it's unfair to the students because in reality, okay, the majority of students from my era who went to Harvard, the average student GPA was about 2.6. Why? Because the classes are fucking hard. When I went back and I was supposed to go for some, veterans program for entrepreneurs, is like up in MIT. No, it was at Harvard. It was at Harvard, and they offered it to me. They're like, "This is a $12,000 um, grant for you to come to the business college." And so the business college is hard as fuck. As in, like, you have this much time to absorb this much information, commoner. You're not a college student. Like, you're not even prepared in the slightest to go to Harvard. Like, in the slightest. Everything you say, do, write down, turn in is wrong. It's like doing your first day of jiu-jitsu. Everything you do is wrong. Everything you do and touch is shit. You're getting beaten every time. So unless you're on that level, that Ivy League level, you couldn't get into these schools at all. Now they're just letting any schlep who can copy and paste some kind of shit and memorize a multiple choice question test, which, by the way, everything in college has become a scam. Like, the college students are using, answer keys and selling the tests. So no one is learning. It's a joke. When you talk to these individuals, you suddenly realize that it isn't just that they're not smart, they're incompetent. And they as in the whoever's have installed these people into positions of power so that at a later date, when that particular person goes down in flames, they're the patsy for the people who actually installed them. Which is why it makes perfect sense to me that they are just taking all of these people now, excuse me, like the president of Harvard, and identifying them and saying, aha, this is the person that appears to be very smart, needed to be installed into the presidency, because just skip everything else. Just skip all the people who've been there for 20 something years. It could very well be the president of Harvard, and then put an incompetent person in their place. Then, after they have made out on all of their money, because that's what it is, it wasn't a matter of Harvard letting commoners in. It's about Harvard letting commoners in to sign away on a loan to pay for these classes that they are doomed to ever pass. They could never pass them in probably in about 30 years of copying and pasting. They could learn a little bit, by osmosis for the most part. But like I said, a majority of the people that I'm referring to can't even read a book, have never read a book, because there are no more criteria. There is no more SAT tests. There is no way of determining someone outside of their gender and their credit score. Apparently, is the only two credentials that are needed. Well, if that was the case down here, then all of my students would have set the entire state of Mexico on fire by now. Because if you don't do this right, you have a very, very dangerous situation on your hands. So there is no room for, DEI hires when it comes to firefighters. And that means that people who can't carry their own weight, who can't put a backpack on and go march up a hill. So these are things, like I'm saying, carrying a chainsaw. Do you realize how heavy a chainsaw is? And it's full of gas, and it's on your backpack, and you're just, what I mean? And you're wearing full on long sleeves, pants, boots, helmet, goggles, the whole nine, wearing gloves, and just cruising on up. That's what I'm saying, is that there is no space for mediocrity. So this whole idea of haters hating on me for having a better, higher standard and then appearing better than them. Because you know what it is that haters are so good at pushing your buttons. They're good at pushing mine. They were for a really long time. And then suddenly they realized, like, I don't know too many haters that are doing better than me. And that's probably why I started to feel and started to recognize that when people don't want you to succeed, like, people really go hard to paint to make sure that they voice their disapproval of your new business, your new idea to go to college, your new girlfriend, whatever you decide to do. There is somebody who is always going to put their 2 fucking cents in, and try and diminish your efforts. There's always one. These haters are horrible to deal with because they're irrational, and a lot of them are violent. I've had haters that have doxed me. Like put my IRS records and like my arrest records, and I was like, damn. And what was crazy is that the person who decided to dox me is because I called him an old dump in the pants, because he was an old dump in the pants and he sold adult diapers, and he was a dick to everybody. He was a liberal guy that just loved to insult anybody who didn't agree with him. So I'm like, you old dump in the pants, blah blah blah. And so he's writing me, DMs, and it is a Medellin, Colombia group chat, and he has other people in this thing. So during that conversation, this guy is running a script on the conversation. I know it's crazy, right? So he's running a script on me. He's like trying to break into my computer via this script that he's doing, and it only happens when you have two Facebook messengers operating at the same time. One can send a code that is almost invisible to the recipient, and during that time, it opens a portal that shows your IP address. So what these fuckheads are doing is provoking an argument from you so that you'll go in the DMs, and while you're in the DMs with this person cussing them out or whatever, telling them what a dick they are for saying that shit about you, during this time, they're running the script in the DM with you, but you don't even realize it. Next thing you know, they're inside your computer. They're taking snapshots of your face. They're downloading your pictures and your videos. Scandalous shit, guys. Scandalous shit. Now, take it a step further. And now remember something, guys. I just told you that this guy, this smoking hot girlfriend, he's all paranoid, and he's worried about her to the point where he's willing to pay me. Please go over there and knock on her door, check on her to make she's okay. Dude is a simp. Like the worst simp ever. And you know what, guys? We get a lot of passport bros that come down here that are used to being around hoes. All kinds of nasty hoes that look a certain way, that talk a certain way, but they're so juicy looking that it doesn't matter how they really, really look. And I tell them, I said, take a second for a look. If you think she looks good, take a real good look at her. Okay? Underneath them jeans is a faja, and it's like shorts, and they're really tight. And it has little round things for her butt cheeks, so it makes her butt look perfect. All right? The upper part over her fat stomach is other part of the faja, and then above that is the bra part. So what you're looking at is two fat titties that have been mushed together, and then a really tight waist, and you got these bubbly titties on top that look like they're like 20 something year old girl. So she looks good, right? She looks good. Okay, but I want you to take a step back and just zoom out for a second and just take a look at her. Okay? What's she wearing on top of that? Okay, she's got the jeans, right? Like miserable inside the, you know what I mean? This is true. These are true stories. These are great, you guys. These are fantastic stories. This is story time, man. I'm telling you guys, but on Sundays, we got to do Sunday Mass. It is so good because you think about it, these are girls that get dollied up, and the you know what I'm saying? These are like the waist trainer that goes under the clothes. It's called the faja, and it goes over the thighs, okay? The fat thighs, the fat part, and it makes the ass like perfect. And then it has the stomach that's like it's all like cinched in like this, so they have these tiny little waists, and then they got the little zipper in the middle so they can go pee. It's fucking weird. And then it's like the top, you know what I'm saying? And then anything they could throw a trash bag on top of themselves, and they will look fine as hell, right? But let's take it a step further. What do they got above that? On top of the clothes? Clothes really don't matter much. It could be anything from any flea market. We don't give a shit. As long as she's fine, right? Because the boobies and the ass, man, when they got that thing on, it just makes them look perfect. Like the most perfect butt. Until you get them home and you unzip that thing, zip, and all that shit falls out. Oh boy. All that, those rolls they rolled up in that shit. Oh my God. The Faja surprise. Haha, bitch, Faja surprise. That is a beautiful thing. It's not like a Jack in the Box. That bitch fucking pops out. There's a boom, bam, fucking Faja surprise. All that fat fucking rolls, falls out. Them titties that were so fat and juicy looking. You know what I'm talking about. I'm looking at two white ladies right now that have both fat asses, thin waist, and jubbly boobly jubblies that are like this big right now across the street. I don't want to be a perv and like turn the camera around, but they are beautiful. Blonde hair. They might be from like Switzerland or something. I don't know, but they're fine. Maybe like Finland. They're tall. All dumping out. The Faja surprise. It's the worst Cracker Jack you ever ate. There ain't no tattoos in them anymore. You guys remember that? Zooming out a little bit. I already told you from the fucking word go that the Faja surprise holds all the dark secrets and all the cat litter in the cat litter box. All the turds in the cat litter box. It shows nothing from the outside. It makes the body look amazing, like the perfect scale of what you guys think of as like would be a juicy girl hot, like porn star-ish in a way that looks like a hoe. Big giant titties, big fat ass, tiny little body. But take it a step up. What do they got above that? Right from this area here up. Okay, it's a status thing. It's gold. Could be gold, could be silver. Back in the 80s, the girls used to have these giant earrings that look like gold, like fake. They're hollow, big ones. Some girls had like, they were like Salt and Pepper wore them. You guys remember that? If Salt and Pepper wore that shit, I was about it. So the big Salt and Pepper earrings, the hoop of the earrings, the size of the hoops of the earrings. Like I said, guys, we're zooming out here. Now, let's say hypothetically that they got big, gigantic hoops that are like 4 inches in diameter, like big old hoops. You know, like, I don't know. Give me a hoe name. So the bigger the hoop, the bigger the hoe. It's been my experience. We've been able to do this and calculate it because of the statistics that I've had with girls. I've been able to fine tune everything down to certain markers so that way you can determine if the girl is a hoe in advance. So you know how to proceed. That way you could tell the girl, hey, look, I'm just trying to score. I'm just trying to get laid. And if she's a hoe, she'll be all about it. If you can move that way in a way that she's like giggling about the fucking idea of you're going to get your back blown the fuck out real shortly. Do you like that idea? Giggling and happy as hell to do it. Why? Because she's a hoe. And that is why I say, guys, sometimes hoes are fun. And you need hoes sometimes. Okay? You sometimes need hoes if you're not going the righteous route. Okay? If you're going the righteous route, screw all that. All it is a distraction. Focus on yourself. You're going to get way better with time. And you don't need to deal with none of the stinky ass hoes anymore. You're going for like way better prime beef type of stuff. So this isn't even a conversation for you. And if you're not in that conversation, I recommend that if you're tired of this stuff, this boot loop of the same old girls, same old experiences, same old results, same old, then I suggest that you go to the nearest barbershop, cut your fucking dreads off, first of all. Cut all your damn beards off that are too damn long for your face anyway. Clean up, look like a baby for a while, and then go on a serious diet That means putting away all sugar, getting rid of all sodas, switching to straight up water. You're overdosing on caffeine, so stop with the coffee. There's a number of things that are controlling you that are making you a weaker man than the people that we're competing with. So if weed is the thing that's slowing you down, then stop smoking weed for a while. Instead, go get some lavender plants, and instead of smoking weed, smoke lavender. So this way you can relax and it'll knock you the fuck out, and you won't have these deep thoughts of doing all these great things and never accomplishing a damn thing, because I know that's what you're doing. How do I know? Oh, because I've been there and I did that. Second thing is alcohol. Most black guys I know cannot and will not ever admit to the fact that they cannot metabolize alcohol. Some genetic people who are genetically related to American Indians, for example, there's a lot of blacks in the United States that are related to the American Indians, and they cannot metabolize alcohol, which is why they turn into alcoholics. You've heard the stories. That's why the Indians cannot drink. They are so bad alcoholics because they cannot metabolize alcohol. So there's your connection, guys. If you need a genetic code connection to some blacks that are related to Indians, of course. It's been 400 years. Of course they're connected somehow. Give me a break. They act like, like before all the Spaniards came here, there was like nothing here. A few Indians. Then they go to California and they find under the fucking ground there's like palaces and stuff. So like, whoa, look at all this stuff. So what do? They clean them up, plaster them, paint them with these new techniques of spray painting white, have the World's Fair and say, voila, the world of the future and the world of the past. And then they knock it all the fuck down so that there is no more history in the United States. So cool, man. I love hearing about this shit because I found out by accident when I was in Panama. I was on my way to Panama, and I read a book about a cop from Chicago who moved to Panama to become part of the Census Bureau. And he didn't speak Spanish. He was a badass. He wanted to go to Panama because he didn't want to be a beat cop in Chicago anymore, and it was the winter time. And they offered this thing that they paid like $15 a month, which was big money back then, in gold. Yes, gold. They paid in gold to white people in different positions. They paid silver to other white people who are from East Europe or Europe in general. And then they paid in what was called general store credits to everybody else. So everybody else in Panama was paid in what's called fichos. Fichos are like a coupon book in the general store. So you could buy clothes, you could buy food, you could buy things, you could buy boots, but you couldn't get gold because that is the story of Panama. Okay. Panama had a population of Spanish speaking blacks that were not African. They were indigenous to South America. And the population still exists to this day because when you go to Panama, everybody's black. You're like, whoa. And this is a cool part. Some parts of Panama to the north, Bocas del Toro, has a really beautiful beach population that is real cheap to live. And the strange thing about beach populations is it attracts very much rich, light-skinned Panamanian girls. And if you like light-skinned girls with big fat asses and no titties whatsoever, but they do have nice hair, but they have these baby doll eyes. It's not fake. They have eyelashes and eyeballs that are like gigantic. And I don't know if that's the Nicaraguan mix with the Panamanians or whatever, but they're so pretty. You remember girls in the 80s when they had like pigtails and they had like the giant glass ball, like barrettes and stuff? That's the style in Nicaragua. It's the hair of natural hair black girls that didn't want to have a natural afro. They would put it in pigtails or braid it. And they had these giant barrette things that had like glass balls. That is the style in Nicaragua. Amazing, huh? The wonderful thing about doing the things I'm telling you is that I stopped listening to haters a long time ago that meant anything to me. The people that I thought cared about me stopped caring or never cared at all. So when I got to peek behind the curtain and I got to actually hear those conversations that I would have never heard, and I got to see around that corner, that changed my whole perspective on things. So if you're sitting there thinking I'm like playing a victim and all this stuff, somebody did shit to me. Okay. And they haven't been punished for it yet. So when I talk about these things, is because some shit happened to me and it cost me almost everything. All right. It really fucked me up. So when I'm talking about these things, I'm talking about how I recovered from it and didn't turn around and commit, murk somebody because of what they did to me. Because we are in the last days, and I need you guys to know that I am from somewhere else. And I know things now that were imparted to me from God. I don't know why. Why did he pick a Sunday school teacher or some asshole over here that's always been the whole time in church? Why? Because he's picking jerk offs like me that are not afraid to lead. When a leader speaks, that leader dies. So you see what I'm saying? I'm not afraid of this shit because I got to peek behind the curtain. I know that I will never die. So, in the last days, and this comes from the book of Matthew, I believe so, Matthew 10:21. And it says here, brother will betray brother to death, and the father his child, and children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. Let me read that to you again in 2x. Brother will betray brother to death, 1. Father his children, children rebel against their parents and will have them put to death. Dude, that is fucked up. See what I'm saying? So if every single thing that, you know what I mean, these chili fucking mongers, the WHO, World Economic fucking chili masters or whatever, fuck them. They're going to hate all of us now. It's shit. We're going to go to jail in England. So where do we sign up for the free trip to jail in England? I could do that. You want a free trip to England? Just say something racist against people in England, against the illegal aliens. Or call them that and you get arrested. Shit. You imagine them trying to get Americans out of the United States, extradite Americans, go to fucking UK for get the fuck out of here. Dude, you know how bad it would be? Do you know how horrible that would be? Let's say they flew whole C-130s full of C-5s, flew them all in backwards into England, all dressed in fucking tactical gear. Here's all your prisoners, you know what I mean? And they go in and a whole C5 full of warriors come and just fucking slaughter everybody. Master reset or not, these motherfuckers would come in there and kick the fuck out of everybody. It wouldn't even matter anymore who the bad guys were. Wouldn't even matter anymore. You know what I mean? The fucking police are obvious against the people. The people are against the migrants. The migrants are just stabbing people with fucking kitchen knives. So, yeah, I can understand why they'd be pissed. But the problem with this is that they're going after the people. They're the residents. And in the name of racism, really? Racism? You go in this direction? This is so dumb. So I'm saying it's like to us 90s people who are Gen X kids, we're like, what? Get the fuck out of here, racism. Oh, they're trying that again? Oh, that is so fucked up. The hottest thing right now is the race thing because that's what they wanted to do. They turned, oh, wait, which one are we going to do this time? We did the climate change thing. Well, we did acid rain before. Remember that? We had acid rain. Then we had the ozone layer. Then we had the crack epidemic. Same time, gangster rap. Then we have prison population when they privatize all that shit. Where do we stop? Oh, wait a minute. 9/11. Fantastic. 9/11. Wow. Off the war we go again. Afghanistan. Poppy fields. $40 billion a month in cash sent by airplane, military aircraft, sent to the leadership of the fucking Taliban every month. It's a lot of money. You know what I mean? So we're in clown world. Everything is backwards. Everything is loco. Everything has been a theater, you guys. AIDS was designed to kill people. It was shipped out by accident on purpose by Bayer. The HIV virus was was contaminating another medicine, and they had 20,000 vials that was sent out to Africa and South America. Now, I want you to fact check me. You come to hear some shit like that, and you're going to be like, wait a minute. Professor's out of pocket right now. He just said that the HIV virus was a man-made virus, and Bayer had 20,000 contaminated vials of some blood medicine that was accidentally on purpose shipped out to Africa and to South America. Now let's fact check that. Why don't we do that? Why don't we fact check that? Bayer. This is the definition. Yeah, I heard you. Okay. Let's word this so that it looks it up for us correctly. Okay. In 1980, Bayer Pharmaceutical accidentally shipped out 20,000 vials of contaminated drugs, contaminated with the HIV virus. Whoa. Whoa. What? What? No. Uh-oh. This is real. Oh my God. Bayer division. This is okay. Let's go. Let's go with one of these like real liberal like soy boy publications and see how real this is. All right, Bayer division knowingly sold HIV infected protein. A division of the German pharmaceutical company Bayer knowingly sold blood clotting agents infected with HIV to Asia and Latin America months after withdrawing them from Europe and the USA. An American newspaper claimed yesterday Qatar Biological continued to dump stocks as a factor 8 clotting agent for hemophiliacs on poor countries. For nearly a year after introducing a safe alternative, the report in the New York Times said, it happened in early 1980 after the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, reported in July of 1982 that hemophiliacs were becoming ill from blood products. At that time, factor 8 produced plasma of 10,000 donors was not screened for HIV. It had become a leader killer of hemophiliacs in the early years of AIDS. Yesterday, Bayer, which paid about 60 million US dollars to settle the lawsuits brought in by thousands of American hemophiliacs, insisted that it always behaved responsibly, ethically, and humanely. This is what we're up against, the bad actions. These are all bad actions. And it's like the team of lawyers from rich, powerful countries trying to stop people from publishing these things that clearly happen. And these lobbyist groups with like opaque funding, coming from everywhere, like Coca-Cola is paying for all this shit. And Bayer, amongst others, are paying for scientists to lie on papers. Which is why you want to ask me, why am I where I am right now if I could go work for Bayer if I wanted to? Well, this is the reason why. This stuff right here. And I don't have a tolerance for bullshit anymore. I mean, I'm no saint, but you just read, what I'm saying, the inventory of HIV contaminated stuff that was like, it's like what really happened. It actually did happen. And it spent millions of dollars just trying to cover up their fucking tracks. Yeah. So 2 paths of Bayer drugs in the 80s, riskier ones steered overseas. So they actually knew there was a risk with this medicine, and it was infected with HIV. It was a medicine in 1980 that was sold to basically their Center of Disease Controls and these third world countries. And so they would send these people, this Bayer. Bayer would send out millions and millions of dollars of medicines for free. So what they wanted to do, they sent it to Asia. I wonder what country that was. They sent it to Asia and South America. HIV tainted hemophiliac medicine. 20,000 vials. That is bad because people unwittingly injected themselves with the HIV virus in the 1980s. This is in 1984. They assessed that the Bayer Corporation had sent out and knowingly sent it out. Knowingly sent out the shipment. Who should die for that one? How many people died as a result of that? People that, listen to this, in Asia, for example, let's just pick a country. They decided to whack the whole population. That's exactly what they did. They sent medicines that are expensive out as basically for free to poor countries like South America and Asia, which are continents, by the way. Sent to the continents of South America and Asia for the purpose of spreading the HIV virus. And they did it on purpose. They sent it out knowing that all of the samples and all of these blood clotting agents were all tainted with HIV. So all the things that I was told, and no, whoa, another thing. Fun fact, you guys, that if you are German, you cannot get AIDS. Okay? Who makes treatments for HIV? If your first choice was Bayer and you raised your hand, you were sort of correct indirectly. The medicine that they were buying in Mexico and bringing it up to the States. Yeah. All those peptides and stuff. Yeah, that's all that shit. All those HIV medicines they literally cost like 85 cents for these people. They made the price like $42,000 so that the insurance companies pay for the same pills, for the same medicines. Come to find out, cancer is curable. Fembendazole is a medicine used for, drumroll please, parasites in animals. Study. Let's see. Fembendazole story with rats and cancer. Okay. So here's the story. The fenbendazole story. So anyway, I do apologize, but this was a story that was published, and it brought me right to the Johns Hopkins Medical Center study on antiparasitic drugs shows that fenbendazole may act similar to a pancreatic cancer collapsing cancer cell structure drug. So fenbendazole has been proven to be a treatment for cancer right there. And that is from Johns Hopkins. So Johns Hopkins, by the way, you know what I mean? You want to go into all these other Yahoo News and all this shit. I'll give you the backstory. There was a guy that was in he was in hospice, stage 4 cancer. And his niece just happened to be working in a laboratory, a research laboratory that had mice that were that had cancer, stage 4 cancer. And she needed to do tests and more examinations. But prior to that, they couldn't have it because she noticed that they had parasites. So she injected all the mice that night. The next morning, she goes to check out the mice, comes to discover that not only do the mice not have parasites anymore, they had shit them out, but they also didn't have tumors anymore. They had shit them out. So we had a bit of a powwow about this, and we're like, well, um, we can't believe everything that we hear, but that was 3 years ago. If this guy had stage 4 cancer and was in hospice, he would have been gone days and days. So apparently this puts the brakes on like hard on cancer. And a lot of people did not want to hear this, so they just went ahead and made my whole damn like the whole damn thing that I was talking about, they made the whole thing silent. You go and looked on a video, and it was about teaching kids how to say sorry because they don't know have parents, they don't have fathers here. So they act like their mothers and don't take responsibility or accountability. So I'm teaching these kids, I'm like, why don't these boys know how to say, I'm sorry, that's my fault. That was my fault. I'm sorry. Because they don't know any men. They're only around women. There's like 6 women in their house and there's 2 boys. Who in the hell is going to teach them a life skill like that? Because men typically say that they're sorry when they do something wrong. Right? Am I wrong? Men take responsibility. Men are accountable for what they say. And if you guys didn't know that it ain't cool, it is not fly to be a womanizer anymore. It's not fly to be a drunk. So there's all these things like, and I would just tell people, just one day at a time, just one day at a time, because people are gonna hate on you. Period. And if they love you, if they hate you now, just wait till your life is what the fuck amazing, and people are gonna be like, he is doing what? I love that shit, man. My friend, by the way, I have friends that have like that are famous, like legitimately famous people. And I'm not talking about blue check famous. I'm talking about real, legit famous. One of them was friends with my ex-wife, who at the time was very, very hypergamous. She saw me. She wanted the young guy with the body and all that shit that was going to give it to her, lick her up and down to just say stop. And she really, like, jumped on me quick. She's like, I love you. I want to get married to you. You're so hot. Everything about you is awesome. And I'm like, what? And I come to find out that she used to be a meth head, that her guy best friend was also her side boyfriend. So I learned very quickly about a lot of people's, human nature. What's up, brothers? Salute to you, man. So I learned very quickly about the nature of these ladies. Very, very quickly. And very early on. So when I tell people the stuff that's happening, oh man, I'm going to give you an example. I mean, I am on a lot of firefighters boards. If you've been around to the firefighters for a long time, you go to the emergency room. Well, the nurses with the fattest asses and titties are in the ER. So the ER girls or ladies or whatever, the nurses, and their helpers and their nurse associates, whatever those fake degrees are called, their nurse helpers are there and they're all fine. Problem is that they are nurses. And any firefighter will tell you with he's been in is that they're home wreckers, they are not faithful, and they are to be avoided. Every firefighter knows that. ER nurses are off the table. Don't talk to them unless you have to. Don't take their phone numbers. Don't hit them up. If they hit you up, ignore them. Put them on the general shit or just delete it altogether. I've had them literally screaming at me in all caps. What have I ever done to you? What have I ever done to offend you? Yes, sir. I'm getting yelled at. What's up? Hold up. Let's see what we got over here. ¿Qué pasa, amigo? ¿A las 4? Buena duda. Es 3:56, pero espera. Sí, 4. Sí. O entra, podemos manejar. No importa. Sí, dale.